I think that everything is energy and that it's 80% mindset and 20% strategy.
Wow.
So as long as you've got your strategies down and you've mastered your mind with mindset, and it's more than just positive thinking. It's your belief systems, starting from the, knowing what you believe. If you think money is hard to earn, money's going to be hard to earn for you. If you think that there is such a thing as a passive investment and you can enjoy it safely, you will be able to do that. And I've spent many years training my belief systems, anything that was negative to positive, saying, I can move to another country and be successful here. And I did. So it's about, like I said, the inner work, creating the mindset, and then doing the strategy, and you will be successful.
Welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Today, we're joined by Anne-Michelle Wand, a real estate investor with 40 years of experience in the U.S., Panama, and Mexico. She's here to share how passive real estate investing works, why mindset is the key to success, and what does it really take to invest internationally. Here we go. I'm excited. Anne-Michelle, welcome to the show. Man, I don't even know if I should ask you how you're doing today, because the listeners are going to know once we start talking about it. But you're just sitting in glory land right now. I mean, it's like, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic. I'm sitting here. I'm not on my deck right now, but if I stepped right outside, I'm looking out the window and the gentle waves are rolling towards me. And right now it's a little bit cloudy, and a little bit breezy because it's probably going to rain this afternoon, but it's just a lovely 80 degrees.
80 degrees. And we were chatting a little before we came on air here, and it's like, it's always 80 degrees. It's the same amount of daylight every single day with the time. And it's like, it's wonderful. It's beautiful. Where in the world are you?
Bocas del Toro, Panama, which is an archipelago of islands off the north coast of Panama, 25 miles from the Costa Rican border.
That is amazing. And I see this, I've got it pulled up on the maps, and it's just so cool. And you're on Eastern Standard Time. I mean, it's just like, wow, that's amazing. So how did you get there? We're talking about real estate investing, and you're not even in the United States. So tell us a little bit about, you've been investing for almost 40 years now, right? Yes. How did you first get started, and what led you to investing internationally?
The catalyst that started me to invest was my divorce and becoming a single mom. But the catalyst that got me to go outside the country was opportunity, seeing the opportunity and loving warm beaches. Mm-hmm. So every time I had a vacation when I lived in the United States, and I lived in Boulder, Colorado for many, many years, with winter's not as bad as the East Coast or the North, but still pretty intense winters. Every time I got a vacation, I would go to an exotic beach. I would visit Hawaii, or I would visit Florida, or we'd go to Mexico. At first I didn't have a lot of money, so we'd go to the close, cheaper places. But as my businesses progressed, and I'm a serial entrepreneur, have had several businesses, and I made more money, we would go farther away. Hawaii, Bali, checking out that side of the world. I wanted to go to Australia, didn't quite ever make it, but it's not as warm, I don't think, as my criteria. Mm-hmm. At one point, I had a vacation home in Hawaii that I shared with my sister, and I bought it because I thought I was going to end up there. It was, beautiful oceans, but it turned out that Hawaii was really expensive, and the natives weren't friendly, especially to white men. The ocean temperature was a little cooler than I like. It's 78, and my favorite is 82.
Oh, wow.
Oceans here are pretty consistent, 82, sometimes even warmer. Um,
Wow.
and you know, so and it was so far away, a long plane flight. So
Hmm.
starting to search in Central America seemed like a good thing to do. And I went to Costa Rica 3 times in a row, thinking I would go there. I went to Colombia. I had a cousin there. Went to Mexico a lot because my son was living there for a while, and just searched all over Central America. Loved Belize, but at the time it was still too expensive. But when we got to Panama, and it was just like, we're here in Costa Rica. I see a little advertisement for land in Panama. Let's go check it out. We did, got off the plane, kind of assessed the situation, and thought, this could be it.
Hmm.
And
That's
you know
awesome.
how you just know when
Hmm.
something is right? Well, after
Wow.
lots of searching of many countries, Panama felt right.
Yeah. I love that story and kind of reaching around, looking for basically your picture perfect and then reverse engineering and coming back from there. So that's really cool. So how did you now turn this into investing then?
Well, real estate's been one of my businesses for a very long time. Even when I owned my 2 salons in Boulder, Colorado, I did real estate on the side because, again, I was a single mom. I needed to create not only good income that was flexible for myself and my kids, I wanted to put them in private school. I needed to make my own IRA. I didn't have a job with a 401k, with my employer matching. I had to figure that out, and I knew that.
Self-employed.
I started in real estate because I saw it after studying it a little bit. I saw it as that vehicle, being the vehicle to wealth, and not just active earned income, but passive income in the long term. So I took some classes at the time, and I learned how to invest in my first real estate deal, and that was in Boulder, Colorado. And I can go into that story if you like, but it rolled into gaining enough equity to buy something somewhere else. And then it dovetailed with my travels of being in Panama and then having enough cash and equity that I had gotten from my other endeavors to invest in Panama. I even started a business here in Panama. I decided not to totally retire when we came here, although I thought I wanted to. And I opened a real estate franchise here.
Interesting.
I saw the opportunity when I came here. There was just so much opportunity. It was that combination of seeing the gaps and filling them, if you can relate to that.
Hmm.
There was only 3 real estate companies here,
Oh, wow.
and they were all local. So I thought, well, if I brought in, now I have experience in real estate. I had my own company in Colorado. If I were to open a franchise here, I could kill it because I would have the global exposure, and that's exactly what happened. I started that business, owned and operated it for 10 years, and then sold it about 3.5 years ago to a younger couple who's going to take it to the next level.
Oh, wow. Well, congratulations on that. And you are still doing investments, and you've got some investment opportunities, and you talk a lot about passive real estate investing. A lot of our listeners are physicians and professionals who want to invest in real estate. They just don't have the time to manage properties. So how do you define passive real estate investing, and what makes it different?
Well, our motto for Passive Profit Partners is you invest and we do the rest. Because I have the knowledge and the experience where I've invested in the past, single family homes, excess land, multifamily, even forming groups to invest in fractional together in real estate. And that's where it begins to become passive, where you are not managing it yourself, like when you have a rental home and you be the landlord and you're the one that calls the plumber. I've done that and it's been okay. I've even done it remotely from here in Boulder. But what really becomes passive is when you allow someone else to do that part and manage the properties, and you just get the happy check from your investments and that addition to your income that you can save, spend, or do whatever you'd like with.
And these investments that you're talking about, are you kind of like on the short term kind of Airbnb, these tropical type resorts? Is that what you're doing?
No, I'm doing something completely different than that. It's been an evolution from having my business and watching people, helping them buy and sell homes, which is really helping them buy their dreams, right? Because people relocate here for a dream. And I also, on the side of that, would build and sell one home a year. And I got to know what people wanted when they came here. So filling the gap for building and selling single-family homes, which I do with a multiple of partners. And also my latest project is building a multi-family home, which will be geared towards over 55 communities. I noticed another gap here in Bocas where people are building Airbnbs, they're buying Airbnbs, they're operating short-term rentals, and a few people are doing long-term rentals, but there's a definite shortage. I've been doing a lot of research into the shortage of housing for, I'm going to call it elder care, over 55 communities that provide amenities. It's going to be a shortage in the United States. It already is. And it's a shortage here as well and won't be recovered for many, many years since there are 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day for the next 10 years. And even if we built out lots, we probably wouldn't be able to completely fill that gap for a long time. So my idea was to build something geared to people who are looking for an investment outside the country. They don't necessarily have to want to move here. So my targets are multiple. The investor side is building what the market wants, and the investors will get the return on that investment. But on another level, it's for the residents that would like to move here and have those amenities provided to them. Maybe they don't want to cook. Maybe they don't want to, they want to be right near their entertainment and have transportation provided for them the way they do in over 55 communities in the United States. But here, there's the advantage of being able to do it for half the price. And there's a whole segment of people who would love to go in an assisting facility, but they don't have the money to pay $4,000 to $8,000 a month.
Assisted living facility at half the price. That's very interesting. Now, you've invested in multiple places: Panama, Mexico, U.S. You've mentioned some of these. And it made me think of this when you talk about not only building, but living expenses are much lower too. What are some of the key benefits and challenges of investing internationally?
Okay. Key benefits in investing internationally is diversification. And I wrote a paper on 7 ways to know if you're not diversified enough. And we won't have time to go into that here, but diversification is one of the key benefits. Also, investing in outside your country provides tax benefits, another layer of tax benefits, particularly in Panama. And again, we don't have time to go into the specifics, but I can let people know that if they want to talk to me separately. And specifically Panama, some of the benefits are an easy. If you want to visit your investment, it's tax deductible. You have all the depreciation that you would gain in the States. Your rights as an owner here are the same as any Panamanian, but you can get more for your money, either in building or buying. So those are some of the main things.
What would you say some of the challenges are of investing internationally?
Well, some of the challenges would be you have to know your market anywhere. And that's where the feet on the ground here, me being here 25 years, I know this market and I've mitigated that challenge. And also the challenge of getting materials here sometimes, because we have to have everything shipped. We're a group of islands, and everything has to be trucked to the mainland and then brought by a big ferry to the island. So Sometimes supply chain things are delayed. What else is a challenge? I think there's some misconceptions about investing outside the United States, that it's not as safe, so that might feel like a challenge. However, especially Panama is one of the safest Latin American countries that there is, and people should know that it's okay to invest outside the borders and feel safe about it. So, what else is a challenge?
Do you have any challenges like movement of money? Say I've got a couple 100,000 and I make an investment in Panama. That money leaves the U.S., it goes to Panama. Does it ever, do you keep an account there? Is the banking system similar so I can keep the income there and then it doesn't have to come back and be reported into the United States? Obviously, you're not a CPA. I'm not a CPA. We're not attorneys. This is just conversation.
That's a good question. And I think that the transfer of money between Panama and the United States is fairly easy. We do wire transfers. And since Panama uses the U.S. dollar as their basis, even though they have their own currency, the Balboa, they use the U.S. dollar and it's 1-to-1. So there's no conversion, and you can just transfer money by wire very easily. There are fees involved, of course, and there are certain ways that you don't have to bring the money back into the United States necessarily when you gain it. But if you're a U.S. citizen, you do have to report it just as you would any other income. That's your responsibility legally.
If it comes back to the States, but if it stays in Panama?
Well, there's questions about that. If you own a property in your own name, say your personal home, even if you don't live in it full time, you don't have to report that to the IRS. That's private. But if you own inside of a corporation, then you don't have to actually report the income, but you do have to report that you own a foreign corporation on your tax return. And I file a special form for being a taxpayer abroad for that. So you just have to have a CPA that understands taxpayers abroad, and they file all the forms for you that are required when you actually live here. If you just invest here, it's a little bit different. And again, your CPA will know that I'm not a CPA. I just know that what I do and the general rules.
What about the entity structure? Is it similar there as it is here for protections and liabilities?
We have corporations with protections of liability. We have LLCs, which is what I do with my fractional ownerships, and we have attorneys do everything here. They form all those entities for you and then keep track of them annually, making sure that you're compliant in Panama, and then you will need a separate CPA for the U.S. to make sure you're compliant in the U.S.
Interesting. How does someone even begin researching opportunities in international markets?
Well, I provide consultations for one, and I have a lot of contacts in the country since I was in the real estate business here for many, many years. And I'm not on the same level being an agent and owning a company, but I have a lot of contacts in Panama City, on the Pacific Coast, that still are in the business. And so I can refer people to places to research any area that they want, or I can refer them to attorneys to talk about any compliance issues or what it takes to invest here. And general information I can try to provide myself just from my own experience.
We talked a little bit about, just briefly about mindset, and kind of, it is a basis, a foundation for investing, but it is a critical part of any investment journey. So what mindset shifts separate successful investors from those who struggle, especially in the international perspective?
Well, for me and my belief system, I think that everything is energy, and that it's 80% mindset and 20% strategy.
Wow.
So as long as you've got your strategies down and you've mastered your mind with mindset, and it's more than just positive thinking. It's your belief systems, starting from the knowing what you believe. If you think money is hard to earn, money's going to be hard to earn for you. If you think that there is such a thing as a passive investment and you can enjoy it safely, you will be able to do that. And I've spent many years training my belief systems, anything that was negative to positive, saying, I can move to another country and be successful here. And I did. So it's about, like I said, the inner work, creating the mindset, and then doing the strategy, and you will be successful.
And being successful in your 40 years of experience here, you've been around successful people too, and you've studied successful people. What are the top habits or patterns you see among those who succeed in real estate?
Well, I think that they have mastered their emotions and their mind so that those things are working for them. They're not controlling the other way around. They also have a morning routine, where they take time for themselves every morning to self-care, meditate if that's your thing, definitely exercise. If you don't take care of your temple and exercise and eat well, you're not going to be able to be vital enough to do anything else, right? Health is everything, and as physicians know. So taking care of yourself first thing in the morning, and then setting your schedule of how it works for you. For me, I'm a morning person. I try to get everything vital done in the first few hours in the morning after taking care of my self-care. And then the stuff in the afternoon, the easier stuff, I leave for the afternoon after taking a nice break between the two.
Very nice.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been juggling that throughout my life of, what to do in the morning, and then I'm trying to find that best piece, because I'm mixing in that creative piece, that thing that sets me and my skills and my ability aside, apart from everyone else. I want to make sure that that's focused on. And I love the self-care thing. I'm personally a fan of saunas and just absolutely love that quiet time, the quiet, whether I go in and whether it's just quiet, or if I'm letting that creative piece flow in those brainwaves at those moments. It's just absolutely wonderful. Exercising is beautiful, and it brings the family together too. So I agree with all of those things 100%. I get a lot of listeners that talk about investing internationally, and if you don't have a connection, it is very, very risky. And because of all these things you said, being able to look at, the markets, boots on the ground, experience with those relationships. But you have this, you've been living here in this wonderful area of Panama, and it is very, very interesting. How can the listeners get in touch with you, whether they want to invest with you in Panama or learn a little bit more about what that journey looks like to jump over the border,
Well, thank you. Yes, I'm certainly happy to share my knowledge with anyone that's interested. And the best way to get in touch with me is I have a LinkedIn profile, and Michelle Wand, and the page is Passive Profit Partners. I also have a website that tells you about our current projects, which is Active Agers and Intentional Living, which the multifamily projects that we're working on right now. And the website is www.passive-profit-partners.com.
So with the dashes, those are really important in there. Reach out to you, chat with you, whether it's with these particular investments or just to chat, or maybe, hey, I'm coming to Panama and I'm looking for a place to hang out with somebody who knows the ropes. That's Anne Michelle. Thank you so much for your time. It's been an incredible conversation. Best wishes to you, and positive energy from the States coming to you as you're living those beautiful 80-degree days, 6 in the morning to 6 in the evening. That's so much fun. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. That was my dream, and I'm sure that many, many people have a similar dream, and I'd love to share thoughts about it. So awesome. Thank you.
Such a fun conversation with Anne Michelle. I could go on for hours and hours. We're definitely going to have her back. I know you're going to have more questions about investing internationally, investing in Panama, but here are some notes I jotted down from today's conversation. Passive investing lets you build wealth without managing properties yourself. Mindset is 80% of success. What you believe about money shapes your future. And international real estate can be a great opportunity, but you need local experts like Ann Michelle. That's definitely one. I'm going to go visit her for sure. If you're ready to explore passive investing or international opportunities, check out passiveprofitpartners.com. That's passive-profit-partners.com and connect with Ann Michelle right away. Thank you so much for listening today. This is the Real Estate Mogul MD.